It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode number 15. Today, we've actually got a more normal cast than I expected. Ray is traveling this week. I thought we wouldn't have Ash, but he gave us the good college try and showed up, and we hung out waiting for Kodra, and now we have Ash, myself, and Kodra. Say hi, Ash.
Hi, Ash.
Also, hey, Kodra.
Hey, how's it going?
So what have you been up to this week? Ash, what have you been playing?
I've been playing, well, since Thursday I've been playing Destiny. But also this week I've played a little bit of Shovel Knight, I think a little bit of Divinity, a little bit of Dungeon Defenders, quite a bit of FF5.
Cool.
It's been kind of a weird week.
Yeah, and did you wrap up another playthrough for the 4-Job Fiesta, or...
No, it's...
Okay, you're still mid-game?
My second Fiesta playthrough is only to the Earth Crystal.
Okay. Kodra, what have you been up to?
I've been playing VVVV, the letter V 6 times, as it is appropriately pronounced, which is becoming sort of a comfort game for me. Like, when I'm kind of stressed out and I want to do something, I play the letter V 6 times and try and get some achievement I haven't gotten. I've been playing... I got Spec Ops: The Line in the 2K bundle. So I played a little bit of that, which is a weird game, and I knew it would be a weird game, but the gameplay is actually where I'm becoming, like, frustrated by it, rather than, like, the weird story. I want to get more of the weird story, and the gameplay is kind of throwing up roadblocks.
So is it just kind of kludgy and dated, or is it...
Well, it's a cover shooter where there is not nearly enough ammo for what you're trying to do. And so, like, bullet management is what it really becomes for me, is like, can I get to the checkpoint using the minimum number of bullets here?
Wow, yeah. So it's the whole Resident Evil things meets... I don't know.
Except Resident Evil is, like, intentionally doing that, and I don't feel like this is intentionally doing that. Like, this is a big shooting scenes where everyone's dropping ammo, but man, you'd better pick it up and you'd better keep swapping around what weapons you have, because there is not enough for you. I also started playing Wolfenstein, and man, do I like that game. That game is fantastic.
I am a big fan. Like, I like so much about it. I'm a huge geek for the whole alternate history storyline thing going on, but and also the whole alternate, futuristic machinery thing.
We should talk about this a little bit later, because I have a whole bunch of stuff I'd love to talk about on it.
Okay.
But the other game that I beat was Mirror's Edge, which, man, that's a good game. Like, I wrestled with that game because there are points that are so bad and so frustrating, but you will really never get another experience like it, and it tells a really good story. So I really do feel like if you're a person who, like, really likes video games and you like playing lots of different types of video games, like, you aren't a specific, you're a broad spectrum gamer, you really need to play Mirror's Edge, because it's an experience like no other game I've played.
Very cool. I wish I could play it. And maybe at some point it won't just make me dizzy as hell, but
yeah, I can see that being a problem.
Like, I don't normally get vertigo, but man, that game, whatever, just triggers it.
Well, it's a first-person parkour game, so, like, when you're doing, like, rolls on the ground to, like, absorb your shock, you see you doing that roll. It's very disorienting at times.
Yeah, like, let's see, Brink was another parkour game, but it, like, even when I was up above things, running on walls and such, because there were a few places where you could do that on the maps, it never messed with my head the way Mirror's Edge does. So I'm wondering if it's like, I don't know, the field of view or what with that game, but just the motion of it, messes with my head. I'm kind of hoping that maybe Mirror's Edge 2 will be different enough that it won't bug me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Mirror's Edge 2 now.
Anything else?
I'm pretty sure that's it, other than Dungeon Defenders, which we've been playing periodically now.
Cool. I've been kind of, I don't know, all over the place. I played a little Destiny. Played some Final Fantasy XIV. I've been playing a lot of Minecraft. For whatever reason, I'm back on a kick of that. The Alliance of Awesome group has a server that's, there's nothing really special about it, but it's, I don't know, I enjoy the whole starting out phase of, kind of empire building in Minecraft, because I've got tunnels going all over the friggin' place. Other than that, I played a little bit of Elder Scrolls and a little bit of World of Warcraft, not a ton. I've got some Horde characters on Scryers, and now that merged into Argent Dawn, it's letting me see some of the Horde players that I knew on, the server that, I started on. So
Anyone still around that I would probably know?
Let's see. I don't know if you remember Boven or
Yup.
God, I'm drawing a blank on another Moo Cow's name. But yeah, actually, oddly enough, the Horde side is far more contiguous than the Alliance has been. Like, a lot of the same people that, you've known forever are still over there playing and just plugging away. Since they were a smaller group, they were far more tight-knit, and they didn't really filter into other games the way that, all of us did. So it's kind of interesting to go over there and just hang out, because it's like I'm not really interested in World of Warcraft at all as a game anymore, but the people are still enjoyable to me. See, other than that, I started up streaming a little bit, and that's been interesting. I kind of changed religion between Twitch and Hitbox, and Hitbox is weird. It's good, but at the same time, it's very beta. So there are little things that are frustrating. Like, there's a lot of things I've just taken for granted with Twitch that either are currently broken or don't work quite the same. But the cool thing about it is that Twitch has a concept of having a team. But the problem is they lock it behind become a partner with Twitch. And Hitbox just has that as default functionality. And for me, that's the really killer feature, because I've always thought it would be cool to be able to have like a channel of sorts that has a bunch of different people streaming on it. That way nobody necessarily has to keep a schedule. You can just get used to following that team, and whoever happens to be streaming, awesome. So that was really what got me to switch over. And there's some other nice things, like, for whatever reason on Twitch, I would have to change my game name 3 or 4 times in a row before it would finally take. Also, I didn't like the way that it integrated with Twitter, in that if you hooked it to Twitter, it pretty much broadcast every time you start and stop the stream. Whereas in Hitbox, it gives you a dashboard, and it gives you a pre-formed tweet, so that you can just click that button and tweet out that you're playing, but it allows you to get everything kind of up and running before doing it. And granted, I could have always done that manually, but it's nice that they automate it, but it's automated when you kick it off. So it's been interesting. Like, I think it'll be a good switch, but it's funny that apparently that's a service mostly used by Europeans and Russians. And weirdly enough, it seems to be highly used with the Counter-Strike players. So it's just a different demographic than Twitch had. Although I have seen a little bit of LCS play on it, so who knows?
You mean League play?
No. Well, so I guess League play, but
the LCS streams it?
I don't know. There was Copenhagen Wolves LCS play on Hitbox, so I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's official or if it's, but it's
I guess
interesting.
They do have lots of streaming partners. Like,
Yeah,
they have Azubu and YouTube and Twitch, like, on their main page. So maybe Hitbox they have too, for, like, different clientele.
well, for whatever reason, it seems to be really popular in Europe. So maybe Hitbox has a bigger presence over there. I mean, I would find that hard to believe, but because Twitch right now is pretty ubiquitous, and I feel like I'm kind of limiting myself by going to something else because so many things just work out of the box with Twitch, and nothing works out of the box with Hitbox. But I don't know. Like, I like it for what I'm doing, and mostly it's because of the team aspect. And I looked around to see if I could find a Twitch partner to beg them to create us a team for a while, but I never found one. And mostly the reason why we were wanting the team was I would really like us to do this November, I believe. I don't remember if it's November or October, but the Extra Life 25-hour marathon.
Okay, I'm down for that.
And I thought it would be cool just to, like, assign a few hours to each person. That way they don't have to do that massive long slog. But so as a team, we would have completed the 25-hour marathon.
Is there rules for that?
Yeah. There's a lot of, that's the thing is, like, a lot of Twitch streamers do a team for the marathon. And, like, companies and such, like, Tryon, for example, they did a 24-hour marathon where they just had a bunch of their employees out on the same team.
Nice.
So I think it's totally valid. Like, I don't think it's cheating, but anyway, that's probably enough to talk about Hitbox because I'm probably boring anyone that's never tried to stream. But it'll be interesting. Like, I think it's going to be a good thing. So interesting thing this week. We'll go ahead and get it out way off the top in case we just talk for a long time about it. This week, Yogventures, which is the Kickstarter game done by Yogscast, which are, fairly famous Minecraft streamers primarily.
They also did, like, hilarious WoW videos, which is how I know them.
Yeah, they're really good streamers. And they do, manufactured content as well as just streaming. They had a deal where they were trying to get a Minecrafty type game created with all their characters in it, since there's a large stable of characters in the various Yogcast partners. But it absolutely went belly up and failed this week. And I think this is probably the first really big Kickstarter to fail.
How much did it make?
I think around $500,000-$600,000.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, I'm looking it up real quick. Yogventures 226% of the goal, and yeah, it was roughly 600,000. So yeah, it's not a Double Fine success, but that's a major player. Like, that's not a minor game.
They still made twice what they were asking for.
Totally, yeah, and it's questionable how this whole thing has gone down. That basically the Yogscast crew pulled the plug on it because they said the quality was not living up to their standards, and apparently they had missed a lot of milestones. But what Kickstarter hasn't? We still don't have Wasteland 2. It's in Steam Early Access, but it's still not out there. It has a release date now, at least, but
we still don't have all of the Double Fine adventure either.
Right, we just have the first half. We have the first half of Banner Saga. The milestone thing isn't enough of a reason for me to just absolutely kill a game. And from what I saw, it looked pretty good. Like, I had been actually watching this one as it went about, and it looked pretty cool. Like, I was impressed with the quality. It was kind of trying to do the whole landmark thing, so it's questionable as if there's enough room for two of those games, because it was kind of a voxely game. But
or three if you consider Trove.
Yeah. Trove is an odd beast. It really is. So But the question is like, the way this whole thing has gone down has felt really sketchy, and there are rumors that there's fraud allegations, uh, because somehow they worked out a deal with Nerd Kingdom, the makers of Tug, which is another open worldy, buildy type game, that all of the folks that backed Yogventures would get licenses to Tug, and boom, they would be considered, good. So that instead of Yogventures, the game they're going to get is Tug. And they're not fielding any refund requests. So, by all accounts, I mean, Yogscast is still holding most of the money. So it's questionable. I mean, did they take the money and run? And the saddest thing is the company that they had partnered with is basically going to go out of business because of this little adventure.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of the reality of video games.
Yeah.
Plus Kickstarter games.
Well, and I mean, I guess it brings up, like, is it really a good idea to partner with somebody for a Kickstarter? Like, I mean, if you're not the one doing the Kickstarter, is it really going to be a good idea for a game company to basically develop for someone else when they have no control over whether or not they pull the plug?
That's how the publisher relationship pretty much always works, though, which is why most people went to Kickstarter to get away from that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in this case, you have somebody kickstarting acting as a publisher.
Right. It's just weird. Like, this is a whole weird situation, and I have mixed emotions about the whole software on Kickstarter thing. But by the same token, I've seen a lot of hard product Kickstarters struggle to go to fruition as well. Like, I backed one that a friend of mine did for steampunk dice, and he has struggled to find anyone willing to make the dice. And it's kind of dead in the water, and it's really out of his control at this point. But
he just not? Was it a thing where he didn't realize the production costs, or is it just people aren't willing to do orders as small as his?
I'm not exactly sure the specifics on that one, but I do know he had a place to do the dice originally, and they kind of backed out on him. So it's multiple things probably.
Yeah.
And because he was offering them in plastic and metal and different things, I think there's been a struggle to find somebody that could do all of the different types. But so the whole Kickstarter's failing to end up a success is not just a software thing. Like, I've seen it in the hardware side too. And there's been a lot of miniature Kickstarters that have struggled as well, because for the same reason of unable to find someone to fabricate the miniatures.
I think Relic Knights just shipped about a month ago, which is about a year late.
Yeah.
What was the holdup for Relic Knights? Just quantity?
It was far, far larger than they anticipated, so yeah, quantity.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the problem is so many of these Kickstarters get caught up in the extended goals that also extend the time to finish developing the product.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of stretch goals. Like, they're really cool if they happen, but they seem to kill Kickstarter.
Well, and I feel like stretch goals are cool, but they need to be stretch goals that are not necessarily ones that expand the scope of the project. So if offering something in a different color when there's not much difference there, that's cool. But offering like an entire expansion of something, like the prime example is the Ogre board game. By the time that shipped,
eventually,
it was insane. Like, it was 2 boxes, and I don't remember the exact size, but it was something like 60 pounds or something like that. And yeah, it delayed it by at least 6 months.
You know what Kickstarter I missed out on, and I'm very sad I missed out on? Have
What?
you seen anything about the Frog Fractions 2 Kickstarter?
I saw their
No.
Kickstarter page.
That's a weird Kickstarter. So basically, this guy was like, "Hey, I made Frog Fractions, and apparently a lot of people liked it. I'm going to make another. I want to make another game. For now, we're just going to call it Frog Fractions 2, but it's going to be a game of mystery and exploration, which I think is really cool. So here's what it's going to be: you're going to give me money, and I'm going to release my game, but I'm not going to tell you about it."
What?
And it's going to totally be out there as an indie game, and maybe you'll find it.
That's insane.
And then, like, it's basically this entire alternate reality game that's going on. Like, there's an alternate reality game for Frog Factions, and, like, theoretically, there could be an indie game out there that just sounds completely unappealing, and you start playing it, and crazy stuff starts happening, and you can then, like, send him an email, and he can be like, "Yes, you're playing Frog Fractions here. Let me give you a key for the full game."
Wow. That's so freaking meta.
It's incredibly weird.
Like, why? I don't even know.
Did you ever play Frog Fractions?
Not like you guys did. Like, I got bored quickly. I didn't play it long enough to get it to do interesting things
You
for me.
should play it long enough to get to the weird stuff.
I only played it during the duration of the last podcast. And
Oh, really?
yeah, it got weird.
It got weird
Wow.
in a hurry. It gets weird in a hurry. Did you
I feel
get
like
to-
I played probably Candy Clicker longer than I played Frog Fractions.
Did you go to Insect Court?
No.
No,
Yes.
no. You went to Insect Court? Yeah, that's a pretty weird part. And then it keeps getting weirder. Like, you ride along on a magical dragon through an underwater adventure while a guy narrates over the background, and then you go in and play a text adventure game.
Yeah, that was where I stopped.
Yeah, okay, so I totally do need to play this thing, I guess.
You really need to play Frog Fractions. It's very weird.
Yeah, it sounds it. I mean, it almost sounds like I don't know, like a weird cartoon.
It is very, very strange. It's very absurdist.
So, I guess to get back to the whole Kickstarter thing real quick, I feel like Kickstarter was already slowing down significantly, and this may be, I don't want to say the nail in the coffin, because obviously there's still going to be Kickstarters that are successful, but I guess it basically proves that just because a game is wildly successful in their Kickstarter campaign doesn't mean you're actually going to end up with a game out of it. And I just feel like it's probably going to make it all that much harder to get games kickstarted. Yeah, because after something like this, I'm imagining every single person that got a copy of Tug, and a lot of those people backed Tug already, so now they have a spare copy of Tug and no real option on what to do with it. They're probably going to be a lot more gun shy about backing the next game.
So what is Tug?
One of the very first Kickstarters I backed actually failed.
Tug is actually really cool. It's another weird Minecrafty type building game, but the premise behind it is that everybody is like a seedling, and you not only improve by building things, but you also evolve. So your I don't even know if that part's in yet, but the master plan is that, like, eating a certain food may cause you to gain fire breath as a mutation, or doing this thing may cause you to get wings, or so it's a weird survival game basically, with a building aspect. And right now it's pretty much just crafting, not necessarily building, but they're actively working on it.
Weird.
And this is nothing to strike against Nerd Kingdom, the folks doing Tug, because everything I've played of it so far is it's a pretty cool little game. It's just not the game these people that backed Yogventures were expecting. And again, the people that are really upset are the ones that also backed Tug, and now they basically were handed a second copy and said, "Here, you're not ever getting Yogventures."
Yeah, that sounds lame.
Yeah. So, while we're on the topic of pet peeves, or at least things that annoyed me from the week, this weekend sucks. Like, I had to be gone most of the day today, but for
Same.
whatever reason, it seems like every company has decided to do a thing this weekend. So you've got the Destiny beta, you've got QuakeCon going on, and lots of information coming out from that on, Bethesda games. And you have the free weekend of Final Fantasy XIV, and this is also the beginning of ArcAge closed beta. So it just feels like there's a bunch of things. And I think actually this weekend also started the new Living Story episode in Guild Wars 2.
That is correct.
So there's just a lot of stuff going on this weekend, and I realize that that these companies are trying to kind of get to the race first on these things, but in having them all in the same weekend, I don't know. It just feels like I'm not really going to devote time to any one of them because they're just all happening at the same time. I wrote a long, lengthy blog post, and I don't even know if what I said was all that cogent, but I feel like every time a company does one of these things where it's trying to either out-hype another company or just have a competitive event in the same weekend, that it's only serving to make us more ADD when it comes to games. Because once upon a time, I was a fairly loyal and dedicated, lengthy player, but I feel like I'm constantly having shiny baubles dangled in front of me, and it makes me want to play everything instead of just the one thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I like being able to jump back and forth between all of these things. Of course, right now I haven't been playing MMOs, so I really like playing all of these fun single-player games.
So, part of me wants to just play whatever happens to be fun at the same time, but to some extent, I feel like I'm missing something because of that, because I'm so spread out. And, it's like I'm never really around long enough for a community to develop in any one of the games. And I realize that we're almost like hermit crabs at this point, and we're taking the community with us into all these games. But you have a situation like Final Fantasy XIV. I mean, I feel like I left that game on pretty good terms, so I was more than happy to fire back up and play during this free weekend, and I enjoyed myself. But I know that in going back there, there's no community to go back to, per se. And I almost miss, like, a persistent community aspect.
Yeah, the last game we really had that was WoW.
Yeah, I mean, I think for all of us, that was the last game that was there for a length of time.
But, like, really, that's, like, the only time I ever had a community, was in WoW.
See, I guess for me, like, every game up until WoW had a community associated with it. Like, I was part of a larger thing than, just me. I mean, because there's
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, like, DOC was that way, and, EQ, and City of Heroes, even. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes we're missing out on the cohesiveness that used to exist by playing everything. Granted, that's probably not going to stop me from playing everything, but
Yeah, I think that's just the reality of how we play games now. Like, we do take the community with us, though. So that's the good news.
yeah, I mean, and that is the one cool thing is, like, pretty much everyone is down to play whatever game someone else wants to play. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, if tomorrow you decided that you really wanted to play some Guild Wars 2, I would probably play some Guild Wars 2, even though I'm not a big fan of Guild Wars 2. And I
Why
guess
would I
that's
wanna
kind of
play
cool.
Guild
I don't know
Wars
if I'd go
2?
that far.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think I would go that far. Sorry.
But I mean, like, I feel like our community maybe transcends games now. So I mean,
Bell, I know for a fact that you played Rift for way longer than I was willing to play Rift.
true, yeah, totally. And I still go back and play it periodically.
I'm still glad somebody's playing that game.
But I don't know. I mean, so maybe we've just evolved to a point where the community isn't really attached to a game, but the community is just a thing on its own.
Yeah.
I said I did go back to play some Final Fantasy XIV, and it's still a very charming game.
it's got such good aesthetics. It's got such good visuals. It's got such good sound design. The music is fantastic. The game itself kind of is boring.
Yeah, yeah. They did add something that's kind of cool. These hunts, because I think those didn't exist when we last played.
What
I'm
are
pretty sure
hunts?
they didn't exist.
What are
So
hunts?
basically, you go to your free company, and there's not necessarily a vendor, but a quest giver. It's called like a hunt master or something along those lines, and it gives you a card that goes into your inventory. And when you open or use the item, it basically brings up a series of wanted posters. And there's a bounty at the bottom, and there's some basic information in where they were last seen, as in what zone. But past that, you just got to go find them. So there's 5 daily hunts, and from what I can tell, it's pretty much the same setup each day. So the first 3 that I did were rare mobs, but they were in an area with lots of the same mobs. So like, one of them was like an Amalja diviner, and they just wandered in with the rest of the Amalja. So every so often, one of them would spawn, and you'd take it out. The last 2 were kind of annoying because they were associated with fates. So you had to wait for a specific fate to spawn before you could get the mob. But they were like actually really good money. Like I feel like that's where the money making's at in that game that was missing. Because the first 3 that were simply killing mobs were 1,000 gil apiece, and the last 2 were 2,000 gil apiece. So for the entire day, that's a tiny little chunk of money. But I didn't really know what to do. Like I had this moment where, okay, I'm done with this hunt now. What do I do next?
Yeah. Is it good XP?
I honestly don't know. Like I was on a max level character. Meaning I think these hunts are max level items, so I was making good money or good experience for my chocobo. I did most of a level on the chocobo doing these.
Did they make chocobos easier to level?
Nope. No, they basically made it to, I mean, it's still the bar barely moves when you kill a mob. And the only other problem is like once again, you don't get anything for killing mobs really.
Yeah, that was a thing that existed back then.
Yeah, that was a thing that bugged me big time. But I mean, I don't know, it was kind of like going back to an old friend. I remember like once I got my bar in order, I pretty much had the same muscle reflexes that when we were playing. So it was easy to go back to.
Well, I guess wouldn't most games in that style feel familiar at this point?
Probably, yeah. It's just like when I go back to a game like that, I don't even have to think usually. Like my fingers remember the combos and things like that. So I mean, it was interesting to go back and pick it up that quickly. So I guess the other really big thing this week is Destiny. I know Ash, you've played a lot. Kodra, did you ever get a PS3 code for Destiny?
I do not own a PS3.
I thought you had a PS3.
No, I have an Xbox 360,
Okay, yeah.
but it's kind of derelict right now. No. I ordered a PS4 is on order, so hopefully I'll get that, and then yes, I will be able to play this game with you guys.
Awesome.
Mostly because I'm really looking forward to it now that like everyone's really getting excited about it.
I am amped about it, but by the same, I don't know. Like I'm in a point where it's really fun, but I don't necessarily want to play it too much because I know everything that I'm doing right now is futile, and we'll play it for real when it comes out. And I also don't want to really burn myself out on it.
Yeah, my perspective on this was I didn't think people would like this game because, it sounds like Halo and not a lot of people really like Halo, but hey, whatever. If you guys are going to play Halo with me, sure.
Well, it's Halo and Borderlands combined.
Sure. I am on board with this.
I guess the thing that I was shocked is I found myself really liking the story. I mean, I kind of dig the whole, Guardian concept. Although I am sad. I want to have a moment of silence for the wizard from the moon.
That is
Because
Line back,
it
finally.
is no more.
that line is no longer in there.
Yeah, no, it's
No.
gone.
I feel like they're probably going to add it back somewhere.
Because the thing is like those of us that played the alpha, that line is so.
It was so silly and so bad.
It's just it's like a friend that we miss now. He's from the moon. Well, what was this actual line? It's like that wizard's
That
from
wizard
the
came
moon.
From the moon.
Yeah, it was an insane little thing, and yeah, it saddens me that it's gone. I do have to say that everything about the game feels really polished. Like between the alpha and beta, there's been a lot of shine applied to the game. I mean, I'm really impressed with what it's shaping up to be. I don't fully know who the demographic for this game is.
I'm not sure, but I like it a lot. So
I'm happy that it exists because it's totally in my wheelhouse, but I'm not sure if this was intended to be a game for Halo players or a game for Call of Duty folks, and I don't really think that's the case. It's something different, and it's enjoyable. Like, I mean, it's Borderlands without the silliness that is Borderlands. Or more so, it's Borderlands with, I don't know, more persistent world.
persistent world, a bit less focus on making your numbers bigger.
I feel like the things that you can do and the skills that you get are going to be really interesting. Like, I like my melee character of sorts.
Is it is there a loot system or is there?
There is a loot system,
Okay.
but the attack value on items doesn't determine like how much damage it does. It determines what level enemies you can fight with it.
Weird.
The coolest thing that I've seen so far is you will pick up what is essentially unidentified items, a la Diablo, and you'll take them back to town to a scribe, and he will
Take them to Deckard Cain, and he identifies them for you.
Yeah. And what's cool about it is like most of those are green items or better, and they level up. So as you use the item, it will unlock special abilities. And I think right now I don't necessarily have control on what those special abilities are, but I would imagine maybe some items fork to where, it goes one way or the other. Because really otherwise, why would it even have the ability buy UI for items?
It's a little weird. Like sometimes there are like the way the skills work in Destiny is when they're arranged in columns, you can have one thing from that column. So I've seen a few that have a choice of sights, so that you can choose whether you want like this fancy futuristic tech sight, which might let you shoot farther but reload a little slower, or other things.
Well, and I feel like all these different things are going to make it have a lot of nuance. Because just because you have two pulse rifles doesn't mean they're going to perform the same, because you don't know what extra ability it's going to get when it levels up. And maybe it's all based on,
Well, you can inspect actually items and see what abilities they're going to get.
Okay,
But you
I
don't know
did
when you
not
pick it
see
up.
that. But I don't know, like, I really love the Titan. And I feel like I'm probably the only one of us that likes the Titan.
That's not true at all.
You like the Titan?
I like the Titan quite a bit.
I really like the jump up into the air and slam down thing. I am a big fan of that.
And when I unlock the Dragoon version of it, that's probably all I'm ever going to use. There's an upgrade to it that says Fist of Havoc can be aimed at targets below you if used while jumping.
Oh, wow. That's going to be ridiculously fun. The only problem with it right now is that it takes a while for it to level up. I mean, not level up, but charge.
Recharge.
And I assume that as that levels up, you get more time on the charge.
If you get more intelligence on your gear, it'll charge faster.
Well, maybe that's what I need to do, because it seems like it takes forever for it to reach a point where it's charged.
Also, a weird mechanic is if you're fighting in a group, when you kill something with your special, you generate orbs of light, and other people can collect those to charge their special faster.
Okay, so that's what those things do. I had no clue. Like, I was picking them up because why not pick them up? But I had no clue what they were actually doing. But yeah, I mean, like, at this point, I just want it to release. I want to play it for real, like where it actually means something, and it's not capped at level 8.
A month and a half. You have a month and a half.
Yeah, I know.
It's the beginning of September?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what we'll be doing. And hopefully by then, I will have figured out how to be on both PlayStation 4 chat and TeamSpeak at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not sure. If you figure out a good solution for that, let me know.
Because right now I've got this setup in mind that I think is going to work. But, yeah, I'm not 100% sure how well it's going to work.
Need to get
But anyway...
need to get like a foot pedal for TeamSpeak.
Well, honestly, like TeamSpeak, it works pretty well on the voice activation. Like, I've played around with it and, done some tests, and it only really kicks on when, it should be kicking on. You're not gonna, like, listen to me breathing heavily or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, that part doesn't worry me. Like, when I've streamed and been playing the PlayStation 4, I'll just kick it onto voice activated, and it works pretty well. But the big thing is I want to be able to talk to people on PS4 chat if they only have PS4 chat, but also hang out on TeamSpeak and talk on TeamSpeak. Because TeamSpeak just records better than, for streaming purposes, far better than PS4 chat. Because PS4 chat's just mono, and that bothers me. But anyway.
Don't you have to, like, you can't stream your PlayStation using your computer's audio, can you?
Oh, totally. Like, I do not use the built-in streaming functionality of the PS4 because...
How do you get your computer to capture the output of the PlayStation?
I have an Elgato game capture device.
Aha!
Yes, and it works with my Xbox 360, it works with my PS3. It's pretty awesome, and I had to go through a whole process to be able to defeat the HTTP encryption, but it's working, and I can capture any game console that I want to. So
stream it through your computer?
Yep. And the big thing there is the Twitch implementation. Well, for starters, I'm using Hitbox, and there's no Hitbox implementation for the PS4 or anything for that matter. But the PS4 Twitch implementation is pretty horrible. Like, it will only stream 480p, which at this point just feels extremely lame. So what I do is I can stream 1080p through my game capture card. So yeah, at this point I'm just trying to find a solution that allows me to be in two different places at the same time, at least communication-wise. So hopefully my idea will work.
Did you want to talk about some Wolfenstein?
Let's talk about some Wolfenstein.
Boy, Wolfenstein. That's a game I wasn't really expecting a whole lot from, and it's really good. The story is it's been a weird week for me because I've been reading up about a whole bunch of James Bond because a guy on the internet wrote basically a book on James Bond, which is very difficult to read because it's in all caps.
Wow.
But the whole Wolfenstein thing is very much like that character is sort of this Superman. Like it's a superhero almost character. Like in the crazy outrageous nonsense that he does in that game.
Yeah, totally. But he's like this good guy superhero. Like,
well, I mean, he sure does love killing Nazis.
Oh, totally. But I feel like, like we were talking about James Bond a little bit, and I haven't read the article, but James Bond is a despicable human being. There's no other way about it. He is a pretty despicable human being. But I feel like BJ Blazkowicz is kind of like almost the stereotypically really good superhero. Like he genuinely cares about the people he's fighting beside, and I don't know. He's like he's Superman, but not only in the fact that he's a badass and can seem to pull things off that nobody else could even possibly think about.
He's a little bit more like he's got this violent streak that's really intense. Like it's disturbingly intense at times. Like just how much sure does love killing Nazis. Like there is nothing that gives him more pleasure.
Yeah.
But I mean the story's very good. Like it's a very well told story, and the level design is amazing. The level design in this game is it's the level design from the 90s, like very stretched out mini pathed levels.
Right. Yeah, and that was the
Well,
thing that really sold me was the fact that so and we were talking about this earlier this week that there's a stealth mechanic and it is totally a valid way to play the game, but I can totally ignore the fact that there's a stealth mechanic as well
I've actually
and
been a
still make it
little
through the content without much issue.
I've been a little disappointed in my ability to stealth in later levels. Like there are a whole lot of levels where you just don't get that option. Or maybe
So
I'm not seeing how you do that option.
so without spoilers, how far in are you?
I am. Let's see. The best way to put this. I have just taken out the head of the research
Okay.
and taken his credentials.
Okay. So I know where you're going next.
Yes.
So you're a little bit behind me, and I probably have a couple hours before I can wrap it up. The problem that I have is that it suffers from the same thing that every FPS I've ever played has, to where towards the end of the game, they stop throwing inventive encounters at you and just start throwing large numbers of encounters at you.
Yeah. I've definitely had a couple of like frustrating moments in that game, and I'm getting to the point where I'm like, yeah, maybe I need to put the controller down and start using keyboard and mouse and take this seriously.
I don't know how I could play it with a controller. Like, I mean,
I need to get better at controller. Well,
I
I played a lot of controller FPSs.
yeah, like I've been doing the same thing too, and trying to train myself to get used to the controller by playing games I'm already familiar with the controller. But there's some moments towards the end of that game, especially that I just don't know. Like I need the precision of the mouse, I need the precision of the headshot to hope to survive. And
Yeah,
I'm not to the point where I
getting to
can
that
really
point.
reliably headshot with a controller.
I can do it when I'm in stealth.
Yeah. But that's the problem that I've seen is like, okay, so you can be in stealth for that first mob, but there's so much crap coming at you that yeah, you're not going to be in the stealth for the next time.
Well, I like being able to, with the silenced pistol, I'm able to drop a lot of things from stealth, and nobody ever notices me.
So the thing that I find interesting is it seems like there's a lot of content to unlock in that game by running the little weird side missions. You like to find the guy's lost toys, and a lot of that stuff I haven't really done yet. So
Yeah, I need to play through the game again because I need to, for a bunch of reasons. Mostly because I want to get all of the hidden stuff, and also because I kind of want to see how the game plays if I save the other guy.
yeah, exactly. Like I want to know how deep the ramifications of that choice are, because my theory is it's pretty different. Because I mean that the guy that you save places a mark on the content from that point out.
Who did you end up saving?
I ended up saving the older guy.
I ended up saving the kid.
Okay, yeah, like I mean I saved the pilot and he shows up a lot.
He sure does. The kid shows up too.
Yeah, but it kind of flavors the entire game into a much darker sense, I think.
I don't know about that. I don't know because, well, it depends. It'll be interesting because the kid's kind of messed up in the future.
As is the pilot. I feel like I think in either case they have survivor's guilt.
Yes. Whereas my angle on playing this game is I'm totally getting to watch Commander Keen's grandparents save the world. And this is the uniting of Anya, who is apparently Commander Keen's grandmother, and BJ Blazkowicz, who is canonically his father.
That's awesome.
Yes. Grandfather.
I liked okay, so the whole Anya and BJ thing is weird, but I liked it. I mean, I thought it was oddly charming.
It's really weird the first time it gets together. Like, the way they compose that scene, like,
Yeah.
boy, that's a weird scene. And I think that's intentional, because, like, I don't think you can generate that amount of awkwardness naturally, like, unintentionally.
Right.
And in many ways, it's a very, like, raw and human relationship. It's not a very romantic relationship in some respects.
But I feel like it manages to do it without necessarily being exploitative. Like, I don't feel like anyone's getting exploited in that avenue.
Yeah, I would agree. And also, at least other than the very first time we meet her, she has never been a damsel in distress.
Right.
Like, after the first scene with her, she is pretty much always there assisting you along the way.
Right. And pretty damn good at the things she does.
It's true. Although I feel like she kind of gets overshadowed once you get one of the members of the cast.
Yeah.
Because her thing is being super smart, and then, like, one of the smartest people in the world joins your cast. And he's hilarious, by the way.
Yeah,
I love
he's
that
awesome.
character.
And that whole side plot is just, I love it.
The whole game, like, it reminds me of a James Bond movie in just how absolutely ludicrous everything is. It also reminds me of a game of the night. Like, it is very much a game harkening back to the 90s, where every soundtrack has to be a metal soundtrack. Like,
man, and I have listened, like, Google Play has the soundtrack up there, and I've listened to the hell out of that soundtrack, and it's good. Like, I mean, some of it is industrial type fill, but some of it's really good. Like, some of those tracks are nice.
All of our tracks are industrial grunge.
It's true.
It's really kind of funny to me, because it's like, wow, yeah, this is exactly what games used to always sound like. But man, does that game take a bunch of weird turns.
Yep. Yeah, like a lot of the missions I didn't see coming ahead of time.
I would not recommend trying to play it on a very hard difficulty, at least with a controller.
Yeah, like, I just played it normal, and I found it plenty challenging.
Yeah, I die a lot. I find, like, I keep revising my strategy, and, like, I have to constantly be aware of how much ammo my laser has, because my laser is how I defeat heavy armored dudes.
Yeah.
And heavy armored dudes are by far the worst problem in that game for me.
And I found that whole thing interesting too, that, okay, so this laser is a really powerful weapon, but it's also the only way you have to get into some areas, you know?
Yeah. There's a bunch of interesting things going, like, the encounter design is interesting, and the levels really save some boring encounters.
Yes.
Because also their health mechanic is also straight out of the 90s. Like, it sort of regenerates, but not nearly enough. So you need to be constantly searching for more armor and more health packs.
Right.
Especially as a fight goes on, you want to grab those as you need them. So you're constantly running to the next cache of supplies so that you can re-up for the next part of the fight.
Well, there were a lot of encounters that I would supercharge myself by picking up too much health just before the fight, so that I would have a buffer to lean on.
If I try not to do that if I can avoid it, so that I can have that health available for me after I take a bunch of damage.
Any closing thoughts on Wolf?
It's really good. You should try it. It's like I think for QuakeCon it's $30 right now.
Yeah, it is. It is so worth it for
It
$30.
is. That's how much I paid for it. It's absolutely worth it. I
It's
feel
good
like
enough that I've considered picking it up for the PS4 as well, just to have it on a console.
I have to assume that maybe sales aren't great for it because it keeps going on sale. I don't know. Which makes me sad because the game, this game is so weird because it's Wolfenstein, which is not a really well respected brand, I would say. But man, this game elevates that brand. I will
Gotten very good
play.
word of mouth, so
I will absolutely play the next game by Machine Games.
Machine games, yeah. That's the impressive thing. Is like Wolf has had a good pedigree, but it's had one bad game. Really, if you think about it, it's had a single bad game, but that damn near ruined the franchise. The
So
the 19, or I think it was like 2008 release, just called
2009, I
Wolfenstein.
think.
What?
2009, I believe.
Okay, that one was bad. Like, and I just couldn't even make it through it. And I'm a huge Wolfenstein fan. So yeah, I feel like that a lot of people weren't willing to give it another shot after that, but this game kind of redeems the franchise. And the big thing is one of my favorite multiplayer games is Wolfenstein Enemy Territory, and man, it would make me so happy if we got a good multiplayer add-on later on for Wolfenstein.
did it not come with a multiplayer add-on?
No, it did not ship with multiplayer.
So for me, Wolfenstein falls into the same category as Doom, which is just generic shooter, and I really didn't pay them much mind. But man, this is way better than I was expecting.
Okay. Any other big things this week that we want to talk about before we wrap things up? I'll take that as a no.
Don't think
Okay.
so.
Thanks everybody for joining in and listening. Let's do the where we can find us. Kodra?
You can find me on Twitter at Kodra22, and I have a blog at thekeengamer.com. And I have put 2 posts out there, and I'm going to probably try and do Blogist, which means I'll be putting a whole bunch more content out there shortly.
Cool. And I will talk about Blogist here in a few minutes. Ash, where can we find you?
I'm on Twitter at hidden_wings, and I'm also have a blog at ashfang.com.
Cool. I am, as always, the author of Tales of the Agronaut blog at agronaut.com. And what Kodra mentioned was an initiative that I am doing this August called Blogist. And the idea is that I do a single post every morning. Like that's the thing that I've been doing for over 400 days. At this point, it's been a little over a year. And since August tends to be a slow period anyway, I thought, okay, well, let's mix things up a bit and challenge other bloggers to post a new post every day for the month, every day in the month of August. So if you're interested, check out agronaut.com, and I will be posting more information about how to join the initiative. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
See ya.